Sadly, PS2 month did have to come to a close at one point, but you guys know how much I love licensed games, so that's what we're doing today. We're talking about licensed games on the PS2, and as always, I'm giving you 10. 10 that I love, 10 that I think are great examples of what the PS2 was capable of, and 10 that show that licensed games don't mean a game is terrible. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to the channel. Glad you're here. If you are a new viewer, if you're a returning viewer, I'm glad you're back. So let's hop right in. We're looking at a game featuring characters from one of the longest running animated series of all time, The Simpsons. You know, games typically inspired by GTA don't really click for me. That's kind of a perfect example of what you shouldn't try to emulate. You should really try to do your own thing, because that series is legendary for a reason, right? But I would argue that The Simpsons Hit and Run does GTA better than GTA does. Kind of like Lego City Undercover did GTA better than GTA did. This is a spectacular game. It's got a wicked sense of humor, fantastic graphics, incredible gameplay with better driving physics than half of the racing games on the PlayStation 2, memorable situations, wonderful combat, and fun collectathon experiences that really kind of scratch every itch you might have. This game's brilliant. I love it. Everyone I know who has ever played it thinks it's fantastic, and it's just something that you can't look past when you talk about licensed games on the PS2. There aren't many properties that I loved more as a kid than Muscle Men, or Kinnikuman if you're from Japan, but for me it was Muscle Men here in the States. And outside of like Masters of the Universe and G.I. Joe, there wasn't really anything that ranked higher than these guys. So in the early 2000s, when the Ultimate Muscle series debuted on Fox Kids, I was hooked. I was excited for it. I was really hoping it was going to be a good cartoon, and I was blown away by the quality we got. And we got 3 video games for it here in the States, but my favorite of them is actually the PS2 one. A lot of people are going to gravitate towards the GameCube release, and while that is a fantastic game, I think the PS2 one actually plays a little bit better. It feels a lot closer to like the No Mercy counterpart that people wanted from the N64, as opposed to the one on the GameCube, which is still a spectacular game. For me personally, Galactic Wrestling is a better title. You have over 40 characters that you're able to unlock. There's a ton of different modes that you're able to play with different match types. There's a bunch of unlockables in the game where you're able to collect the different toys and things like that for the series, but I just love this one. I think it's a fantastic wrestling game, and it makes use of the Ultimate Muscle license by making it an over-the-top, fun wrestling game. I've said on previous videos how big of a fan I was of the X-Men Legends series. I actually featured it on a video previously this month for the PS2, and I was so excited when we saw we were getting one from DC based on the Justice League called Justice League Heroes. They play very similarly. They're not identical. The X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance games are significantly more polished, but Justice League Heroes still has a lot of fun to be had. You have a bunch of characters to play as. You can play as Aquaman, Batman, Black Canary, Green Arrow, Superman, Wonder Woman, among others. There's a bunch of really creative villains that you're going to be fighting, and the environments are really nice. It's a little less free-flowing as far as character selection goes as opposed to things like X-Men Legends or Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but I do think it tells a cohesive story. This is a really fun game, lots of really creative unlockables, and if you like hack-and-slash dungeon crawlers, you should probably check this one out because it's really fun. I'm not going to lie to you, any of the Def Jam games could have been on this list, but Vendetta is the one I happen to own, so that's why it's on here. And this is just such a great wrestling game. And yes, I know, another wrestling game. Deal with it. It's okay. This features some of your favorite hip-hop artists in a wrestling environment. You get to fight with a bunch of different characters. The environments look great. It's close quarters combat. It's dark. It's gritty. It's a ton of fun. The music, as you would expect, is spectacular, which is why you can't hear any of it because I don't want to get a copyright strike. But I love this title. I've loved every single Def Jam game that's released. Well, I've loved most every Def Jam game that's released, but this one in particular is a lot of fun. Check this one out if you haven't had the chance. For something that could have been a very simple, straightforward, and honestly kind of boring game, because, I mean, let's face it, it features the Hulk. He's kind of one note. The developers of the Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction made something really ambitious, because rather than just relying on rampaging and jumping and roaring and beating things up, the Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction implemented fully destroyable environments, where the Hulk can use anything he can pick up as a weapon. It's a magnificent game. It's a study in game design, and it's something that a lot of companies should really use as a test bed to show what you need to do to think outside the box to make something exciting and fun. Hulk Ultimate Destruction is money on any platform. I've loved it on the PS2, the GameCube, and the Xbox. It's a magnificent game. This is MLB Power Pros, and this is here specifically suggested by David B69, a longtime viewer, a good friend of the channel, who also has a great channel of his own. You should go check it out. But David suggested this to me a couple of weeks ago, and I told him I was going to look for it at the Cleveland Gaming Classic, and lo and behold, here it is. This is a spectacular title from Konami that features the Major League Baseball license and amazingly modeled stadiums. Like, all these ballparks look beautiful. The characters are 100% cartoons, but the gameplay itself is incredibly solid. Like, the pitching and hitting is fantastic, the base running and fielding is great, and there's a really interesting RPG mode as well, where you're working your way through a college team to make your way to the pros. I'm stoked to have this one. David had me convinced I was going to buy it when he told me it was a baseball RPG, and I have loved my time with it so far. While the version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the PS2 is not the first version of the game I think of when I think of the game on home consoles, that doesn't take away from the fact that this game is spectacular. Is it really expensive? Very much so. Is it as good as the Dreamcast version? Debatable. Is it excellent? Absolutely. When Lord of the Rings Return of the King came out on the PS2 and the Xbox, it absolutely swept our department. This released when I worked at EA, and it was such a fun and exciting game that everyone was playing it. It's a hack-and-slash adventure. You get to play as characters from the film. You are set into scenarios from the film, like it launches with the Battle of Helm's Deep, and it's such a fun experience to be able to step into Gandalf's shoes, or into Aragorn's shoes, and play through these epic battles from the Lord of the Rings series. I never would have pegged a game based on Starsky and Hutch as being something that is worth any time to invest into it. But I'm not going to lie to you guys, this is such a fun game. It's straightforward and simple. There is no taxing brain activity that's going to be happening when you're playing this game. You drive, you shoot, you take out the bad guy. That's it. There's some other objectives as you're playing, but honestly, it's just fun. I think it looks great. The sound is fantastic. It's a bit repetitive with the vocals, but the actual music in the game is magnificent, as you'd expect for a game from the 70s. Lots of really good funk lines and things like that. Starsky and Hutch is great. Gotta be honest, I saw some Samurai Jack when it was originally on the air on Cartoon Network, but I didn't see a lot of it until years later, so my affection for this game isn't from nostalgia. This is one that got suggested to me by Mr. Rightway a couple of years ago, and I decided to pick it up on his suggestion, and legit, y'all, this is a fantastic game. This is a third-person action-adventure where you go through as Jack, you're collecting power-ups, collecting abilities, and fighting enemies. It's straightforward and fun, and there are a ton of things to find in each level. It's a samurai collect-a-thon, and it's great. All right, there you have it, my friends. 10 licensed games on the PS2 that I think are money, that are fantastic, that are worthwhile, that are fun, and that you should check out. These games really highlight what the PS2 is capable of and show that not all licensed games are terrible. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite game is I featured today, and let me know if there's any that I skipped over that you think I should have on here. I know I didn't include any of the SmackDown vs. Raw games on here, and a lot of people love those, myself included, but just didn't fit this video. I couldn't quite make it work. Until next time, folks, I've been Jay. Appreciate you spending some time with me. Until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.